All right, we're going to talk about how to use the M-LOK system. Whether you're new to M-LOK or you've been using M-LOK but you've had some issues with it, we're going to talk through the best practices to make M-LOK work for you. So the first thing you need to do is make sure you have M-LOK accessories and an M-LOK mounting surface. And the easiest way to do that, without measuring, without needing to go back and look at your packaging, if it's a licensed M-LOK product, it will have the M-LOK logo on it, which is that logo right there. Looks like an M with one of our T-nuts on it. Right? And if you find that logo on your mounting surface, should be an M-LOK mounting surface. Any handguard you buy from Magpul today and anything that was produced after about 2014, early 2015, will be M-LOK, but there's hundreds and hundreds of other guns that use M-LOK also. Look for the M-LOK logo, and that'll be a good indicator that you got an M-LOK mounting surface. Then you need to make sure that your accessory is also an M-LOK accessory. There's a lot of MO parts that were out on the market. We supported the MO system for almost 10 years after M-LOK came online. You will notice on the MO accessory, we don't have any recoil lugs, and it's got a weld nut, and the hole spacing's different. And it will say MO on it. So looking at MO versus M-LOK, on the MO system we don't have any recoil lugs. On the M-LOK accessory we do. The hole spacing's different. And we've got that large weld nut that requires backside access versus the smaller camming T-nut. Also, if you flip them over on the other surface, you can see the M-LOK logo and the Legacy MO logo. And that's a good way to differentiate the parts. All right, so once we've identified that we've got an M-LOK surface and M-LOK parts, first thing we got to do is determine where we want to put the accessory. One thing we want to be mindful of is that backside clearance. So while we can control all the surfaces on the handguard via the M-LOK TDP, there are scenarios where the screw may hit the gas block and deflect the barrel before you can tighten it. You'd either need to use one of our shorter screws and potentially even then trim the screw down flush with the nut once you set the nut depth to get enough clearance. In some extreme cases, you won't be able to mount an M-LOK attachment over the gas block at all. So once we know where we want to put our part, and we verified that our parts are M-LOK, we're going to have to set our nut depth, and that's the most critical thing to do with the M-LOK system. So when we start with our parts, we want to make sure we've got a polymer patch or Loctite on there. That's critical to the system. And then we're going to have to adjust the height of these nuts on the M-LOK screws. And we'll start with the wrong way to do it. So looking at this accessory, this 3-slot rail, if the nut's too far out, it's not going to engage in the camming slot, and it's just going to spin free and you'll never be able to tighten it up. Likewise, if the nut's not far enough out, it's not going to clear the backside of the slot and it won't be able to cam, so you're not going to be able to turn it. All right, so the easiest way to set that nut depth, if you have a way to measure the material thickness, that's great. Otherwise, there may be a little trial and error the first time. If you take a 7mm box wrench, you can use an adjustable wrench, you can even use pliers. In a pinch, you can use all kinds of stuff. Optimally, we'd use a 7mm box wrench. And we're going to put it on our M-LOK nut, and from a position where it's all the way snug, back it off till we think we're at our approximate thickness. Once we've got our nut depth set, we align the camming T-nuts with the recoil lugs, place them through the M-LOK slot. We're going to hold the M-LOK accessory against the surface, and we're going to give it a 1/4 to 1/2 a turn. These don't require a ton of torque. It's not necessary to use a torque wrench. Just snug it up a little bit. All those nuts are doing is holding the accessory onto the M-LOK surface. The recoil lugs are doing the rest of the work, so you definitely don't need to use your properly calibrated 200 foot-pound torque wrench to put these things on. You're just going to wind up breaking something. Once you've got your M-LOK accessory attached, it's secure, and once you set that nut depth, it's really easy to just 1/4 to 1/2 turn back in the other direction. You'll feel the nuts disengage, pull them off. You can move them anywhere. You can replace it with another accessory. It's just setting that nut depth is the most critical thing to the system as far as having a good user experience. From there, you're free to use your vert grip, your sling mount, your Picatinny rail, your hand stop, your rail covers. Most Magpul accessories and most of the ones on the market use a standard 1/8" hex wrench. There are a couple that use larger, smaller ones. Within Magpul, the M-LOK QD sling mount, for example, uses a larger tool due to the screw size we had to use. But most stuff on the market, if you've got an SAE hex set, you're going to be all set and you'll be able to install or remove any M-LOK accessory. So that's how you identify M-LOK, set your nut depth, some hardware selection criteria, what to look out for as far as barrel and gas system, barrel nut, gas block, placement, and then how to install and uninstall an accessory. Once you got all that stuff down, you'll be able to use M-LOK the same way wherever you go on anything that's M-LOK equipped.